Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Tom Tobin, president of the club, and we're thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30. Come out and join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we're having on our local community and the world, visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary connects the world.
Good morning, Rotarians, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. It's good to see everyone again this morning. Our invocation this morning is by Phil Tobin.
Thank you, Ron. I'm going to do the invocation and then take a second afterwards to describe a little bit about it, if I could, please. I'll start out with the invitation. God, give me the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, the courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish one from the other. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would like to have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may reasonably be happy in this life and eternally happy with you wherever next. Amen. Can I ask the Rotarians if anybody could volunteer who might have written that and what was the background behind it?
St. Francis.
Well, that means I've got to mention it briefly, if I could, please.
It was a serenity prayer, and it was Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes, entirely right. Who was the author? Do you remember, Donna?
I don't know.
Dr. Bob?
Well, no, it was written by a Protestant theologian by the name of Niebuhr, and it was adopted as the official prayer that starts every meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's called the Serenity Prayer. And it's basically Betty Ford had really taken this from its recognized position as the opening portion of every Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and really made it a popular prayer around the country. Anyway, thank you again for allowing me to bring that subject up.
Very good. Thank you, Phil. And now to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Tom Page.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Three, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Okay, Tom, take it away, President.
All right. Good morning, Rotarians, and any guests that might be with us this morning. As I look around the screen this morning, I notice we have I see Joe Zapotowski and Ralph Day over his shoulder there at a socially responsible distance. Good to see you guys. Hey, I wanted to just mention to you, by the way, my dad alluded to this earlier during setup time. I'm in Florida today, so this is one of the situations where I probably couldn't have done this, led a meeting like this unless we had the Zoom capability. I probably couldn't have done this from a distance like this. So this is pretty cool, and this will be something that can help us. And by the way, it looks as though from our district guidance that we will be in probably virtual mode until the end of this this year. So through the end of December, we're going to be in non-physical mode. So at least that's the guidance right now. This morning, without much advance warning, I'd like to ask my father, Phil Tobin, to just do a brief check-in. Dad, what's going on in your life? What are you thinking about these days? What are you doing? There you are.
Again, guys. Hey, well, just briefly, I'll mention that, you know, we made a transition from being at work for maybe 60 years to working at home, which is an entirely new experience for me. And it's really been a marvelous experience because it's allowed me to continue on, probably focused on what I'm doing in charitable giving more than I've ever done in my past. But I think one of the most significant things is the fact that it has allowed me for the first time in 60 years to be home with my wife, Joan. You guys all know Joan. And that's been really a wonderful experience. As a matter of fact, just within last week, we had our 60th anniversary, which was fun. But the very fact is that I'm no longer 8 or 9 hours or 10 hours a day away. I'm here. And although I am in my office and I'm very focused on what we're doing, and it's working out very, very well, I am at home and we do see each other quite a bit for the first time in all my working careers. And it's been a wonderful experience. So I just think this whole thing has had some pluses and minuses, but in my case, it's been a very plus thing. And it's allowed me to really be experience being around with Joan, going out with her at different times, having dinners with our friends in a very socially distant way. It's been really a good experience. So I have nothing but the greatest feelings of now realizing for the first time in my life what it's like to be around my wife, which I think is great. So I'll stop at that.
Dad, let me also mention one thing that you guys are doing that I think is pretty cool. You guys have found a place over by, along with some of your friends over at Barlow Community Center. It's like a patio or something where you guys get together, no more than 10 of you. You get together and you sit around in, I guess, kind of a circle, and you bring chairs and you bring little tables, and you guys enjoy a meal there, but at a safe distance from each other. And so you're able to kind of maintain some of the social aspects that you've had in the past.
At the risk of disclosing this secret location we have, which we really don't relate to anybody else, but I really encourage you folks to take a look at it. It's behind Barlow Center, which, as you know, is right across from the fire station. And if you go down the left path, you come to a sort of a grassy area there where there are 4 or 5 benches in a circle. And they're there. They're just perfectly arranged for social distancing. And we just would go in there about 5 o'clock in the evening. All of us bring our meals from either a fast food restaurant or from home. And we sit around, and it could be a couple hours. We only do it once or twice a week, but it's a lot of fun. Incidentally, the park is beautiful to walk around. There are 2 lakes there, and it's about a half a mile all the way around, but you can walk it multiple times. You could not find a prettier place in Hudson. We're very fortunate.
That's great.
Thanks, Tom, for mentioning that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I think that's all that I have. Oh, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. Hey, Phil, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Rich.
How does Joan feel about you being around all the time?
She's sitting here with a pitchfork in my back right now. No, it's been great. It's really been great. It's something that I've never experienced in 60 years. So
Rich, one thing that makes it work really well is, you see that really nice background that my dad has there?
Well, he has no screen on right now, but
okay. But I don't know if you saw it, but a beautiful fireplace.
Yeah.
And he's got the bookcases and everything.
Yeah.
Well, that is in the basement.
Oh, that's
and by the way, he kind of like you had that build as part of your office originally, Dad. But I mean, you're using it as your because you're doing a lot of video conferencing right now, and it makes a great background.
Yeah, I use it for work, but I originally built it as an office at home. But it's more than just an office. And I learned this from Donna Kastner when she interviewed me for her program up at Hudson Television Place on Re-Entrepreneur. It's a totally dark room, believe it or not. There's nothing, if I look beyond my video screen, I look into a black room. The only light is what I have right here in front of me, directly in front of me. And it looks like a lit room, but it's more than just that. It's a music room. I have probably 12 or 1,300 of the very finest vinyl records you could possibly find, classical music, a lot of CDs. I do my painting in this room, naturally with the lights on. And so this is a multi-purpose type room. And we use it for videos at work, so it works out pretty well. Thanks, Tom, for mentioning that.
So it's
Yeah,
your man
sure.
cave, huh?
It's his man cave, exactly.
Right.
All right. At this point, I think it's time to hand it over to Jane Howington to introduce our speaker today. Jane, take it away.
Thank you. There we are. So the first thing I have to say is that our Zoom meetings for the city could not have been done without Paul Leedham. He started us on Zoom, and I think he manages most of our Zooms. So he was on there last night at council, and he's on there this morning. So he's probably doing more work than he's ever done before, both inside his 40 hours and outside. Paul Leedham is our Chief Innovation Officer. He's the head of our IT department. He works closely with many of our departments, one of which is our data department now. So he's in charge of our Velocity Broadband program. He pretty much has his hand in lots of things and has really earned the title of Chief Innovation Officer. I think when I first came here, he was a GIS manager and has just blossomed and taken on so much that's really put the city in a tremendous spot, and one that we were very flexible in being able to have everybody go home and work at home. And that was foresight again with Paul and some of the technology he's brought to the city. So take it away, Paul. We've such a pleasure to have you here and to let other people hear how much you've been doing and how great the city's position is.
Well, thank you for that. And good morning, everybody, and welcome to 2025. It's kind of strange how we've managed to come so quickly in terms of technology in the last 3 months. We've really jumped probably at least 3 to 5 years is kind of what we're saying, and just observing this meeting as it began, to see everybody just adapt and evolve to be able to jump right into a situation such as this, which is unique to say the least. I know many of you guys have had long careers, and it's just pretty awesome to see how everybody can just adapt to this type of technology, not only for professional purposes, but obviously for social things as well. I mean, there's a lot of people using this type of technology now to run quizzes. I'm obviously not from these parts of the world, so I quite frequently touch base with my family over in the UK, and we get together. The kids can show them what they're doing, what they're working on. It's pretty interesting. So great. So let me just get started here. Okay, so just real quick, I'm going to tell you how we fared during the COVID-19, which we're still in the midst of, but it's not the same as it was a few weeks ago. I'm going to go and talk about our innovation and technology initiative, and then we'll go into a few other items if time permits. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples as well. Hopefully it's not too laggy, but we'll get started here. So first question, when this thing happened, were we prepared? A very fair question. We were actually quite fortunate. Probably about 3 years ago, we have a 5-year cycle for all of our PCs within the city. And about 3 years ago, we decided to start switching to use laptops versus desktop PCs. At that time, laptops became the specifications of laptops were as good as PCs, and people obviously are able to take these and be a lot more mobile. It was more in terms of if people wanted to move around the workplace, or on occasion if they did need to go to meetings, they could take their laptops with them. So we were fortunate we had laptops. We also, about a year ago, purchased a new phone system, which we were very fortunate to leverage some components of that, where we were able to have people download an app to their cell phones. And what would happen through the use of a VPN client on a phone is people could take their phones that they would have at their desktops pretty much anywhere through an application on a cell phone, which was really, really helpful, especially because so many people went home. Everybody was at home. We had people that are regular call takers able to use their cell phones to do everything that they do in the office, which was pretty cool. We already own some licenses of GoToMeeting, but what we found pretty early in the game was GoToMeeting was good for 1 or 2 people attending a meeting. What it wasn't good for are meetings where there was lots of people like this. We tried a couple different platforms, and Zoom really did choose it essentially was the best product for us for the city itself. We knew there was some complications and security concerns, but with best practices followed, we can make sure that we took care of those. So we're also fortunate over the course of the last 4 or 5 years that we've got many online applications. So city business itself really didn't take too much of a hit. We were able to not only allow residents to continue to process permits and do a lot of things online, pay bills online, but we were able to obviously process them as well by allowing all of our staff to be working remotely. So we were pretty fortunate. We did have to adjust to find the right platform for the right type of meeting. We do have many boards, many council meetings. I think our only interruption was probably the first 2 weeks where some of the board meetings were postponed. But after the first 2 weeks, from mid-March to probably the end of March, we were back up and running, and we were able to train staff to administer a lot of these meetings themselves, which was really helpful from my perspective, because I didn't have to spend every single evening running these things. To train the trainer was really helpful in this case. So now I want to just go into just innovation and technology. Obviously, you guys have become gurus in technology the last few weeks, which is great, but for the most part, that's not the way most people are. So what we've done in the city is to try and use innovation and technology to help us gauge some successes inside of city government. Really, how do you gauge success? Quality of service, I think, is one way you can do it. Providing community members satisfaction and confidence in staff and the services they provide is what we do. So how does that relate to actually city IT? Interesting enough, Jane took me aside when we first began her tenure as city manager, and she provided a challenge. She laid down a challenge to me, and she actually provided a grade for what we were doing in IT and GIS. I won't tell you what that grade was, but it required me to begin a new path, and the path is innovation and technologies, which is what we decided to do. So we really have 6 areas of focus, which I'm going to be going over here in a minute. But these are the areas that really allow us to provide some guardrails around allowing us to proceed and implement a effective innovation and technology initiative. So I'm going to start with the data initiative first. So big data. What is big data? I think if you guys just look at this graphic, hopefully everyone can see it okay, but data is just expanding like you cannot believe. So many different devices are generating data, so many different applications. The actual meeting that we're on right now is harvesting data. Everybody is always providing little pieces of data which are getting taken and used for all kinds of different things. So we know that everybody in the private sector is using this. So it's important that as a government, we also take that data and do what we can with it. The world is going this way. We want to make sure that we don't keep isolated, and we use those types of things that we can benefit our operations. So here's some just stats. Obviously, that's a lot of data. For the city of Hudson, where do we source our data? So we actually have an awful lot of data inside of the city. I was the database administrator for quite a number of years, and this is quite difficult to read, but you will see that there's a number of data that we collect, whether it's crime data, utility data, work request data, communications. We gather data for all the different postings that we have, scanned documents, sensor data, GPS on vehicles, where our vehicles go. We have lots and lots of data. I think any organization, if you really start to interrogate and look at the things that are collecting data, it would be quite impressive to see how much is being gathered. The question is, what are you doing with that data? We also have got outside sources of data that we use for our day-to-day operations for many years. We use Summit County property data to allow us to know who owns property for a lot of the things that we do with engineering and community development. And then we also use census data, Board of Election, business data, a lot of different data that is surprising how much data we use. So how can we use this stuff? You know, it's a pretty interesting question, because for many people, that can be a concern. How do we use this data? Are you stealing my privacy? Are you using this for bad things? I think that if we look at what's happened with Facebook and Google over the course of the last few years, this is a legitimate concern. You know, people are selling this type of data. I can say, as being the database administrator and the guardian of our data for many years, we're not selling our data. We do keep our data in-house, and we use it for benefiting city services, quality of service, those kind of things. But the metrics that data can generate are extremely helpful to allow us to guide what we do, allow us to make evidence-based decisions. So what we've been doing is to start to illustrate the data that we have, so we can begin to monitor and track the types of services that we have and how we do things. These are a couple of dashboards that we've generated. These were kind of early dashboards. We've migrated now to actually use data for some pretty interesting projects. One of which is a crash data application. I may not go into that right now because I know we're a little bit limited on time, but we do have a data hub, which is the little graphic you see in the background. But this is where we house a lot of the data applications that we have. The crash data in particular was something that we worked with the police department and our new police chief. He's not new anymore, he's been here a couple of years, but it was a good opportunity for us to work with him and show him how we can actually use technology and data and the metrics of data to help us illustrate and assist in decision-making processes that they would go with. So if you'll see this dashboard here, the way it works, you can actually go to any intersection around town, and with the way this is assembled, it will start to provide metrics of data within that. Let me show you. I'm sorry, it's not as good actually telling you. Hopefully you can see this. So if we zoom around on this, hopefully you can still see this okay. You'll see all the different charts changing their numbers. So one reason we would use this is we would say, well, we're going to be putting in a new turn lane somewhere around town, but we'd like to know, you know, what is the types of crashes that have occurred at that intersection. So if you'll see here, we can quickly look at any intersection around town. This is data that's generated from 3 years, and we can see that the weather type, the type of crash, rear end, we clearly have a rear end crash problem here. And then we can actually see the frequency by the hour of day which these things occur. And as we look around town, we can zoom in and see this for any intersection around town. It's really, really helpful information. Interestingly enough, that many of the police officers actually know this information already. They're already fully aware of what happens at a lot of these intersections. Where we have issues sometimes is illustrating this for the public or for board members or council members, whoever it might be, to actually communicate and educate them why we use this type of data. So that's why these types of programs and these types of data management and illustration tools are really effective. So that's the data piece. It's really made a huge difference to a lot of the things that we're doing within our city today. So another interesting but extremely important piece that we do for the city, we constantly are reviewing our software that we use for the city, and we keep a track of it. And if there are issues with data, if data is getting expensive, or it's not functioning quite the way we hope it should function, or it can't integrate with something else, and we feel that it may not be the best tool that is out there, we constantly are tracking and monitoring which types of software system we need to invest in next to see about finding a replacement. One of the most important pieces that we do as an IT department is we are tasked with ensuring everybody has the best tools to do their job effectively. So we also wanted to make sure that we don't get staff to become complacent with software as well. So we challenge them, and we do put teams together to assist them in finding, or at least confirming, that the software that they're currently using is the best product they can use. One product is Viewpoint. I won't go into too much detail, but we had an extensive process that we went through with our community development department to confirm that they did have a process that was a little inefficient. So we tasked them, we put together a team to find a better way to do what they did. And the result was finding a new software program where we were able to manage and actually design the software to really structure and allow our processing of permits to be far more efficient. So this is an online permitting process. People now went from taking 20+ days to generate permits to a number of days. And the goal is, we're going to take another look at that this year, to hopefully have some of these permits processed administratively in a matter of hours. So that's the goal, to make it quick, to be impressed when people come to the city and they use a service or they use an application. They're like, that was nice. We liked that experience. That was the kind of experience that we expect from, you know, a high service quality provider. So OnBase is another one. This is something that's commercially used to generate, well, to consolidate documents, document management, quickly go find things. We had a lot of storage, a lot of paper, go figure. With the government, we have lots of paper. This program allows us to go through each department and allow them to archive a lot of the paper that they have, store it, and move on and search it and find it really quickly. So we have work order management system. We're just in the process of our fourth iteration of a work order management system, where this is a good example of a product that was, these things can sometimes get a little stale. So we need to make sure that we're constantly assessing the needs of our staff versus the types of applications that are out there. So we just implemented this. And then another application we recently implemented earlier this year was our second phase of an app that allows residents to go and start to ask questions or report a concern. It's called Engage Hudson version 2. So that's some of the things that we're doing inside of the continuous assessment, but it's very important. So emerging technologies, obviously technology, emerging technologies. We're always keeping a close eye on this. IoT was extremely big. It was extremely hot a few years ago. This is one of the reasons why there is so much data today. The Internet of Things is essentially all the different computers and products and sensors and PCs and little chips that are in your refrigerators, that are in lights, that are in your cars. It's pretty much everywhere. People now have found ways to build tiny little microchips that can not only control things, but they can gather data and send things, and they can start to be intelligent too. So this is something that we're constantly looking at. We started to use these things for some of our street lights. We're also looking at sensors for some of our water collection apparatus. We did use it for sanitary sewer when we were monitoring the sanitary sewer system. We're looking at traffic signals, adaptive signals. This is a, I can't even read this, but this gives you an idea of where all these sensors go. Lots and lots of different pieces in terms of municipal government that can use this. UAVs and drones. We started a program last year, mid last year, where we trained 3 or 4 staff to actually become trained drone pilots. As we've seen, Amazon's pretty quick to this. I'll be curious to see. I think they've probably ramped up the whole idea of delivering packages. A few years ago, this we get a chuckle when I showed this slide. Not anymore. It just shows you technology. It's changing. Now, this is maybe a little drastic, but who knows after what we've just gone through the last few weeks. Maybe this is where we're headed. But more realistically, what we do use drones for within the city is to allow our utility staff to provide inspections. We use it, we have an infrared camera that the electric department uses to go and check hotspots on electric equipment. We've also used it a number of times for assisting the police department. If somebody is missing, we can quickly mobilize the drone and cover a lot more ground. It does have a thermal camera on it, so we can look and see in cold weather to see if somebody's out there. So it's a really, really helpful tool. We were starting to spend a fair amount of money on having contractors come in and use this type of equipment. So we, as a city, decided that it was time for us to invest to use this to make our quality of service and operations more efficient and effective. So it's been a really good project. So augmented reality. I thought I'd just show this. This is kind of the next phase of where we may be heading for GIS. I've been a GIS person for many years, and GIS is cool, geographic information system, but it just shows you things on a 2-dimensional map, and you can see where lines are, property lines, those types of things. What this will allow you to do is really enhance that experience by looking through a iPad or a phone to actually see where things exist in relation to what you may see in reality. There are a couple of other communities that we're keeping abreast in terms of where they are by using this type of technology. Are we there yet? No, but it may be something our staff could be using in a couple of years to go find sewer lines, to do markings of electric utilities, things such as that. The next slide, hopefully you can see this. This is really where we've been investing quite a lot of time to see how we can enhance our street line furniture, our infrastructure along street lines to help us capture things, to help us build intelligence. You'll see traffic optimization. Sensors can track actual cars or the types of traffic that are there, the traffic flow. We also have traffic enforcement. We can use this for parking opportunities here, and then crosswalk utilization. All these are using intelligent sensors within streetlights in this case to allow intelligent actions to occur. So whether it's allowing people to walk across the street, now there are new additional components, a little tweak of the hardware to allow people to see alerts of social distance and things like that. This type of technology are things that we do have sensors in a number of our streetlights already, and they can be quickly leveraged to do this type of analysis, to build intelligence, to allow us to do some pretty interesting things. So we'll keep an eye on this and find the right time to act on it. So citizen engagement, as we mentioned a little earlier, it's critical that we know and we're engaged to what the community is looking for us to do. What are the needs of the community? Can they quickly find access and get, I guess, access to anything that they want to do? Can we see when certain venues are open? Do we know when the trash collection is going to be next? All those types of things. So we've had an app for a while, but we were at the point where it was stale. It hadn't really done what we wanted it to. So we chose to upgrade, and we've got a new app which will allow us to be far more of a user experience, and it's tied to a lot of our other apps within the city as well. So that's one of the things we've been looking to do. We've also been upping our game considerably in the social media platforms. We really try to provide as much messaging as we can to allow residents to know what's going on. And even Jane and some of the leadership staff have taken to Facebook to explain and educate the folks within the community of how we do things and why we do things. Another addition in the last 12 months has been Hudson Headlines, which is a little video program that's hosted through our HCTV station. And they go through and choose different types of stories to illustrate, similar to what the Facebook and social media stuff will be doing, but this is more specific to give almost a humanized look at what staff and what the city is up to. This one that is highlighted here is how we're using the drone footage. We do have a channel where you can go and just pick through these, and they're very interesting. They're well done. They were a little rusty at first, but now they've really become a product that's good to watch, and you do actually learn a number of things. They were structured in a way to be educational and effective. So, and then we also had a void. We discovered a void that in order to keep communications as robust as they can, we wanted to make sure that we were also doing the traditional mail method too. So, and we also spent some time to really engage with some groups within town. We have a group on the technology side, and I get together with those guys maybe once every 2 months. We have some CIOs from Children's Hospital, some financial tech-related people from Goodyear, but it's just a really good group of folks that allow the city to really pry as much information as we can. It's a sounding board essentially that we use it for, at least on the tech side, to get a good gauge on what types of applications are they using. How did they fare in the COVID response? You know, are there things that we could be doing better? And we can have a really good discussion. They also provide us guidance on velocity broadband as well, and some issues that are some questions that they may have, or things that we may be trying to struggle with to get direction on. They're very helpful to provide us that kind of information. So, cybersecurity, this thing bubbled up big time in the last 2 years, especially in the realm of government. Municipal cyber attacks were, I think they went up 400 or 500% over the course of the last 12 to 18 months. COVID hasn't helped as well, because people are all displaced, and many times it becomes an easier target to begin. But a lot of people, a lot of communities have not invested significant amounts of money in cyber security, and they can easily be hacked by malicious folk and held for ransom. So we've taken some significant steps to avoid that. We really kind of directed some funds last year to really tap into some expertise that we were able to get some significant help and assistance with. Some of the things that we've done to allow us to kind of up our game are we do have a penetration test that we do once a year, where we have companies that will come and try and ethically hack us. And when they find voids or issues, they can assist us in recommending the best way to plug those holes. In addition to that, what else we've done is we've added the services of a security operations center, which allows a company to 24/7 monitor all of the city machines. And if there's any kind of activity that's malicious, that could be malicious, they send us a notification, have the ability to shut them down, which is quite comforting. We think it's money really well spent, because where cyber attacks can be the most prevalent is when they've been there for a while and they keep creeping. And with these types of services that we've tapped into, we're feeling that we're in a pretty good spot, but we need to continue to educate and help people how to best deal with cyber, how to identify when something is malicious or not. So, and then velocity broadband. Obviously, we're unique in the fact that we have a service such as this. It was prompted by leadership about 5 or 6 years ago, where we had a a concern from business owners that the internet service wasn't what it should be. We approached the business, sorry, the current ISPs, the incumbents in town, and tried to work and see if they could assist us in building out and upping the I guess the bandwidth we had in town. They just didn't want to play with us at that time. They didn't want to invest. So we chose with leadership's direction to build it ourselves. And first customer was in 2015. And we now have 320 customers, and we have primarily businesses. We do have 60 miles of fiber in all of the primary business districts around the city. We have started to go into some areas to provide residential service if you're within proximity of some of the lines that we have. And one of the biggest things that we have is our phone service is extremely well used and continues to grow, where we have over 1,000 phone customers, I believe, 1,000 phone lines that we manage. So it's really a successful operation. It's provided a lot of businesses in town a lot of satisfaction. If you do have a chance, you really should just ask if they're a customer what they think of it. I think our staff do a fantastic job of really playing partners to a lot of the businesses in town. They really do find it as an extension of, city operations, and I think it's been really helpful, and it's allowed us to conjure some really good relationships with a lot of businesses in town. So let me see where we go next. So, and just to kind of show you some of the peripheral and explain some of the peripheral effects of building something like a broadband network, it did allow us to get a lot of attention from a lot of tech partners. They did want to come to the city. They did want to come work with us. They were intrigued by the innovation that we had to do something like that. And I think with all the staff to get behind and build what we did, it really did begin to change the mindset of the city staff. We were able to feel a great sense of accomplishment to do what we did. And we've been able to share our story with many other folks. We continue to use that as a platform for many other things that we do within the innovation and tech space. We've established some really good relationships with neighboring communities down, well, not neighboring in the sense of the state of Ohio, but Dublin and Westerville. We get together quite frequently with them, and we exchange notes. And we became part of a organization called the ICF, the Intelligent Community Forum. And once again, that allows us to extend our partnerships with a lot of intelligent communities, not only in the US, but all over the world. And we share our stories with them, and they give us some insights to a lot of the things that they do. So just real quick, I don't want to take too much time, but some of the other innovation and tech opportunities that we have forthcoming, we do have a new City Hall. There are all kinds of ways. We're curious to see what is the way we're going to use this post-COVID. We've got lots of opportunities with a building such as this. We're still in the process of figuring that out. Downtown Phase 2, we don't really know where that's going, but once again, I'm looking at it from the perspective of technology and innovation. So whatever goes there, there's a great opportunity for us to really insert some type of intelligence and technology, which would be really helpful depending on what goes in there. We currently don't know. We did define an innovation corridor, which is something that we've spoken with ODA and some other folks down in the Columbus area to possibly start to investigate some autonomous vehicle type testing in this area. Nothing has come of it yet, but we wanted to at least have that in our portfolio. And then I think what we really strive to do is not just jump at the next shiny thing. We really want to apply technology and innovation to real problems that are community based. We did have a good push for a while for wireless fire detection. We weren't able to come up with all the funding we needed for that, but what we do is we kind of challenge not only staff, but we challenge companies and partners to come up with solutions to try and fix things. Not all the times these things come to fruition, but we really, with groups such as yourself, the Rotary Club and many other organizations in town, by reaching out and working with you guys know better than anybody what types of concerns and obstacles we have within this town. And we're there as a partner to help come up with solutions for those. Adaptive traffic signals is something that we come in soon, which will allow us to increase traffic flow going through town. So a little late with the pictures, but you get the idea. The railroad up on Hines Hill, our first step was to put in a sign up there to allow people to redirect. We're going to modify that once more and make it a little bit more intelligent. So smart street lighting, we talked about this a little while ago. All the streets that we buy now are controllable. We can dim them, we can turn them off, we can set times, we can do all kinds of things. We had a successful pilot project we went through to find the right solution for us. We did, and those are the lights that we start to put around town now. So, and then collaboration, other communities, businesses, academia, anyone that we can pry information from and allow us to make more intelligent decisions are really what we're striving to do. So that's it. I apologize if it went a little long, but
this was perfect, and I slipped in. Paul, this is amazing. We so appreciate that you've been here, and I have to get my reclaim host duties because I can't mute or camera people. Chat box is going crazy, and the first question from Liz Ramsey: what happens? This was back with the traffic systems. What happens when the system crashes? How about that for an easy first question?
Oh, for the adaptive signals?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these things are designed for that in mind. Unfortunately, I think it's one of the first questions that we have, and especially Tom and our engineering staff would have. That many of these things can add an additional layer of intelligence to allow these types of programs or applications or hardware to be managed. But if it crashes, it defaults to traditionally the old way it used to work. It goes into its timing mechanism, and it should default to the old way of doing things. It is technology, so there's an extremely good chance that if it's new, that these types of things would occur. But they're really designed for, unfortunately, they need to be designed to be able to crash and still operate effectively. So.
And Tom Tobin, are you out there? You got your video on?
I am, but I think I can't turn the video on. Oh, there we go. Now I can. I think I can now. Okay, great. I see also a question from, and I'll tell you what, Mimi, why don't you just ask it yourself, if you can. If you, well, let me just try it out in case Mimi's not connected on microphone right now. How do citizens know that they have access to the city's citizen engagement options? How do citizens know that they have that?
That's a really good question. Ideally, they would know because they would be already being engaged, and they would have found communication to allow them to know so. The challenge that we have is effectively using our citizen engagement methods to allow people to get the message in. So I think that the way that we would know, the way that you would know, is it's things that would be derived from the city website. So many times when we have new types of engagement methods, they will be illustrated or highlighted within the city website. Some of the other media type things that we have as well, if they're a member of a Facebook group, are also what we've been trying to push is for everybody within the city, they do receive the monthly newsletter where we can have a section that would start to explain what type of engagement methods that we have. So what we would really encourage people to do is at least find one of those that would be your preferred method of engagement. It would be great if it was two-way. You know, we're all ears. We want to hear what people would like the staff to do. But you know, the whole push to really branch out to as many touch points as we can was to make sure that it was really easy for residents to engage, to not only get the message, but in order to give us some advice and, you know, constructive criticism is we're all ears. We want to hear that. We don't want to just hear, like anybody, we don't want to just hear, you know, you guys just waste our money. We would far prefer if you guys really thought about using these types of funds to do something like this. That's the kind of engagement that I'm sure anybody would prefer.
Well, I will say, I mean, you have 33 people online this morning, and more folks will watch this on Hudson Community Television as well to spread the word about that. So there's a step in the right direction today. Hey, beyond that, let's see, another question. I know this is coming from my dad right away. I didn't even have to look for the name because he did some work with this back in the Voinovich administration. What is the situation in automating Hudson's dispatching for police, fire, EMS? What's the status of that?
So the status is that we're in the process of partnering with a neighboring community to allow us to spread resources to, I believe it is the city of Bath. And what we're able to do with technology and leveraging technology is allow both communities to leverage a system that's based in the cloud, so it's not really hosted in a specific site as such. Essentially, what we're able to do, it provides more resources for both communities, and it allows us to. I mean, it's not essentially automating the dispatch. It's really virtualizing it. So it's not going to be quite as imperative that people are sitting in those 2 seats at the dispatch center. It's going to allow some flexibility for dispatchers to maybe be a little bit more agile in what they may do. A good example is it's not installed yet, but it's in the process of coming this year. Is, you know, in a situation such as this, you know, there would be the opportunities to allow these types of staff to work in different locations. Jane may be able to add a little more to exactly where this stands. This is primarily being managed by the police department, but obviously on the technical side of things, we're there as the IT department to assist in any way we can. So.
Great. Okay, and then I see another one here, another question. Does the Engage Hudson app automatically update? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it should automatically update in 2 different ways. Obviously, the software piece itself should automatically update. There is some literature that is on the website when you do go to actually download it. Depending on the device, there may be a different update process you may go through. I believe the iPhone is pretty much it's seamless, but it may be a little different on the Android application. But in terms of updating the actual work orders, that's all done by, and I'm not sure exactly if that's what it's talking to. I don't know whether it's the software piece or the actual issue it might be, or the concern it might be. But when that would update would be when the actual work is completed or managed within the Public Works Department. Users that submitted the concern would get a notification to let them know that the issue has been resolved, or if it's not city responsibility, they'll get some kind of guidance in terms of where that stands. So.
Okay, great. Ben asked, you mentioned Zoom security concerns. Can you
Yes.
share what kind of security concerns,
So we've had a few different concerns that, whether it's been board members or staff, when you read a lot of articles online or in any kind of Wall Street Journal, whatever your newspaper may be, what tends to happen is because Zoom exploded the way it did and they were extremely successful, a lot of their competitors got a little disappointed. So they really start to smear and kind of escalate a lot of the issues that many of these companies are a little disappointed that they're not getting the business that they did. But there were some legitimate security concerns that people would, in the way they administer their meetings, post a link online with the security password already embedded. What that essentially does is it just says, hey, everybody, you can come to my meeting and we may have a waiting room, but I don't really know who you are. And if you're going to come into my Zoom room, my meeting room, you pretty much, if there's some of the best practices are not followed, you're pretty much opening yourself up for folks to come in and put shared screen of explicit information, videos, whatever it might be. And there's been quite a few instances of city council meetings being overrun by folks that would jump in and they would put in inappropriate material on the on the screen. It not only is alarming for all the folks that were in the meeting itself, but if these things are televised, it's pretty embarrassing. There are steps to take. There are, if hackers are really targeting a specific meeting to get to, it may be difficult to negate. But as I mentioned last night, somebody tried to hop on one of my meetings last night. But if you have a waiting room, should I say, you as the host do have the ability to play gatekeeper, and you don't want to be the next article on the the Channel 5 News or in the Beacon Journal or the Plain Dealer. It's you've got to just be cautious. So
I have a suspicion that hackers are like musicians. They don't get up at 7:30 in the morning and try to target Rotary meetings. So
right,
very true.
If they're in like Western Europe though, they're already they're rolling. We're there for the taking.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Hey, I just wanted to mention one very small technology innovation. It's a kind of a tactical thing that I really appreciate seeing more of these kind of the speed signs around town, the ones that tell you how fast you're going. They're kind of strapped onto a post somewhere, and I think they can probably be moved around a bit. Kind of a step up from hauling around the trailer that the police cars used to. But I really think those are great for giving people an awareness of how fast they're going, and maybe shaming them a little bit into slowing down. So good on you for that.
Yeah, those things collect data too, which is nice. They are data collection units, so you really can start to gauge, what is going on at that intersection. That's one of the things that we can subscribe through those services to actually capture how fast people really are going there. It can be, you used to see those cords that would go across the road to collect traffic counts. Well,
yeah,
things when they're actually providing a miles per hour reading to the driver, they are actually capturing how fast those people are going. So once again, another example of data that we're collecting for the intelligent decision-making process that would be used to harvest that stuff and make a decision based on data instead of emotions, which is really what we're striving for. So.
Oh, okay. Well, hey guys, we're at 8:34 right now. I want to hear. I'm sorry that we've gone a little bit long, but I think this was a really good speaker this morning. I want to thank everyone. And by the way, give folks your contact information if you don't mind, Paul, in case they need to get in touch with you. I guess we can find you through the city's website. But do you want to just give me your email address too?
Yeah, I can send it to you, and you can forward it to whoever. I'd be happy to talk. I mean, it looks like a fun group. I've enjoyed it this morning. Thanks, guys. So
thank you so much. Folks, if there's anything else.
Do you have a second for me to make a quick comment?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Okay. I was a neighbor of Burt Morgan for years, and he made this comment to me one time, which is sort of fun. He said, there's going to come a time when there's going to be four things in the world. One's going to be a computer. The other one's going to be a machine. The other one's going to be a man, and that's Paul. And the other one is a German Shepherd. The role of the computer is to run the machine. The role of the machine is to do everything in the world. The role of the man is to feed the dog. And the role of the dog is to keep the man from screwing around with the machine or the computer.
And what happened to the women?
Bert hadn't thought that far ahead. All right, let's leave on Bert's wisdom. Hey, thank you, everyone. I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.